Well, fine, good afternoon all. This is Patricia and I am traveling for history. I am in Guilford, Vermont today, and I found the Guilford Center Meeting House, which is that building right there. It's rather tall, so I'll walk closer to it after I finish telling you about it. The Guilford Center Meeting House, formerly the Guilford Center Universalist Church, is an historic building in Guilford, Vermont. Built in 1837, it is a well-preserved example of transitional Greek Revival architecture, and the building was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1982. And as the writing of the piece I'm reading from, it is now owned by the local historical society as a community meeting and event space. In fact, I'm standing right in front of the Guilford Historical Society building. Open Saturdays 9 to 12, by the way. The Guilford Center Meeting House is located on the west side of Guilford Center Road, just south of Carpenter Hill Rural Community. Carpenter Hill Road and the Guilford Free Library in the central part of the rural community. It is a single-story wood-frame structure with a front-facing gable roof and clapboard siding. Its front facade has a slightly projecting gabled entry flanked by sash windows topped by lancet arched louvers. When we get closer, I'll show you those things. The entry section has paired entrances, each flanked by pilasters and topped by a cornice and entablature with sash windows above and with a fully pedimented gable. A two-stage square tower rises above the entrance with lancet-arched louvered openings high on the first stage and on the second belfry stage. The stages are demarcated by crenellated parapets. The interior of the church is relatively simple, with semi-box pews, arranged in three groups in the pulpit at the far end of the sanctuary. There is a loft area above the entrance vestibule. The church was built in 1837 using materials salvaged from an earlier meeting house. It was erected by a Universalist congregation at a cost of $2,409 and represents one of the state's earliest examples of Gothic religious architecture. Attendance at the church was always somewhat intermittent, and the congregation size generally followed a downward trend in the town's population. In 1977, the small congregation gave the building to the local historical society. It now maintains the building and opens it to the community as a social and performance venue. In case you're curious, it sits on 0.6 acres or 0.24 hectares. All right, so let's take a walk and get closer so you can see what these elements are that I was talking about. I mean, it's a beautiful building. And it looks like it's well maintained as well, which is quite lovely. But you see what I mean, it's quite large. All right. Pilasters either side of the doors are columns built into the wall. The entablature is this piece right above the door, and this projecting cornice is right there on top of the entablature. Those pointed lancets are these right here. So the clapboard siding just means it's not vinyl sided. It still has wood on the side of it. The gable end. All right, so typically, not always, but typically, you would see a gable end on a Greek Revival style building because it's harkening back to Greece. It's called Greek revival for a reason. Think the Parthenon, for instance. The pediment on the Parthenon. So this is the pediment right here. This with those little wings right there, if you will. I'm sure they have a name. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, the pediment on the Parthenon, for instance, is like that, and the Parthenon had statues, bas-relief stuff at the top. Now, I've never seen that yet in the U.S. on a building, but that's the pediment. And we see another one repeating right here as well. Now, those belfries they were talking about, the belfry is up here, and this base, this is the two stages they were talking about. There's no steeple because it's a meeting house. It would appear they have stairs on either side. Can I show you? Yeah, I think you can see it on the left there. I'm sure that went to the choir loft. There are two doors, one for men, one for women. Alright, well, this has been the Guilford Center Meeting House in Guilford, Vermont. This is Patricia, and I'm traveling for history. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And until I see you again, have a fabulous